My name is Marion de Marcillac. I'm part of MSCI ESG research, and I'm within the ESG product team looking at carbon solutions and sustainable impact solutions. So there's a number of ways that you can measure the carbon risk exposure of a portfolio. I think one way to start would be to look at the CO2 emissions generated by your portfolio, and then that would be to focus on scope 1 and 2 emission data. And doing this, you can isolate the companies that are contributing the most to your carbon risk exposure. But there's also other dimensions that you might want to look at, in particular fossil fuel exposure. So one way to do this, for instance, is to look at the potential CO2 emissions that are embedded in the reserves of the companies. But also you might want to look as well on the opportunity side, whether you're exposed to companies that are solution providers, and looking at whether they're involved in alternative energy solutions, energy efficiency, green building, pollution prevention, for instance. But I think another important way to look at is actually how companies are managing those risks. So first, actually the level of extent to which they're exposed to carbon risk, and then look at how they manage this in terms of their policy and oversight, whether they set themselves some targets in terms of carbon reductions, how aggressive the targets are, and so forth. So it's definitely something that you can do as well using the type of data that we provide. The MSCI low carbon indices are built really to address two dimensions of carbon risk. One is the carbon emissions from the companies, but also the potential emissions coming from the reserves. So the indices are built to minimize the carbon emissions and the potential emissions coming from the reserves, while tracking a tracking error within budget. So the outcome is that you're able to compared to the parent index, you're able to reduce your carbon exposure, carbon emissions to 80%. While keeping, tracking error within budget. So that's a really good way to address some of the issues related to climate change, while addressing the short-term risk issues and being able to follow the benchmark.